Peppa Pig fans love to laugh and have fun with the piglet's mischievous antics.
I love jelly.
But have you noticed that there are a lot of scary things in this cartoon? With Halloween just around the corner, let's start with one of the most famous and sensible theories within Peppa's universe. Madame Gazelle might actually be a vampire disguised as a preschool teacher or perhaps a witch who discovered the secret to immortality. There's some evidence in the show to back this up. For starters, Madame Gazelle has been around for far longer than a normal human lifespan. Sure, Peppa Pig is a whimsical cartoon, but even the characters seem to notice it. In the episode of Madame Gazelle's farewell party, it's mentioned that she taught all of the parents, which is super suspicious. There are two types of adults in Peppa's universe: younger adults, like the parents, and elderly ones. The difference is in the color of the eyelashes. Like this. Grandpa Pig has a beard, white eyebrows, and white eyelashes, representing his gray hair, while Daddy Pig has dark-colored facial hair. This pattern is consistent across all characters, including the Madame Gazelle. In the episode Madame Gazelle's House, we find out that she planted a Christmas tree, a pine tree. In the episode, the tree is as tall as her house, and it needs to be chopped down. She planted the tree, but pine trees take decades to grow that large, and she was already old in that scene. Mr. Bull mentions bats living in the tree, and she says they remind her of her old country, likely Transylvania. Creepy. How old is she really? You know what to do. Grab a snack, get your wooden stake, and join us for another Cinewave. You've probably heard this story before. The big bad wolf, who had powerful lungs, blew down the houses of the three little pigs to eat them. In season 5 of the show, Daddy Pig is hired to design a brick house for Mr. Wolf, and that's when a strange conversation takes place. Mr. Wolf, being clever, asks what the house is made of. Then he tries blowing it down, but when he realizes that the house Daddy Pig designed is sturdy, he asks what material our favorite pig used to build his own home.
What's your own house made of, Mr. Pig?
Daddy Pig responds that his house is made of bricks and that Mr. Wolf shouldn't even think about trying to blow it down. The new neighbor seemed quite interested in whether he could knock down the pig family home. It's creepy because the whole Wolf family likes asking Daddy Pig these questions. Mrs. Wolf even asks what the little pig's house is made of and seems disappointed when she finds out it's not straw. These wolves. Another creepy thing about this show is the possibility that it's based on a real story. According to some information, the creators were inspired by the tragic tale of a young English girl who lived in East Anglia named Peppa, who lived on a pig farm. The girl thought she had formed a friendship with the pigs, especially the biggest one, but what she didn't realize was that the animals were just waiting for an opportunity to devour her. This tragic event may have become a horror story to scare children, and one of them might have been one of the show's creators. In Peppa's world, there's a vegetable that hosts a TV show, and that's seriously weird. You might want to argue that in a universe where pigs can talk but chickens can't, calling a mutant potato scary is silly, but there's a limit. Where did Mr. Potato even come from? A possible theory is that some of the vegetables in Peppa's world are mutants, or at least some of them are. In the episode where the TV star visits Peppa's town, he tells everyone they need to eat vegetables. Could he be talking about living beings or not? There's a book that may have inspired Peppa Pig, George Orwell's classic Animal Farm. In this book, there's a revolution among the animals called Animalism. Many Peppa fans believe that humans have been wiped out, but we know that's not true because a few have shown up in the show, like Santa Claus, the ultimate Christmas symbol, and even Queen Elizabeth herself. Perhaps years before Peppa was born, there was a war against humans, and in the end, the animals managed to conquer part of Britain. And would you like to be an animal in Peppa's world? Then comment #animal to let us know. If that's not creepy enough for you, we've got an even weirder theory. We've already seen that humans appear in Peppa's universe and interact with animals as if they were just other people. If a pig walked up and talked like a human and came up to greet you, would you run away in fear or act like it was totally normal? There's a theory that the characters in the show are actually mutant humans who had to take on the characteristics of mammals. This might explain why most of the animals in the show are mammals, since humans belong to the same animal group. This theory makes perfect sense because it would explain the near absence of humans on the show, as well as why these animals live in peaceful communities. Two examples would be Mr. Wolf and Mr. Lion, who are predator animals but never attack anyone. If you could be an animal, which one would you be? Our theory suggests that perhaps the animals in Peppa's world aren't really animals, but modified people. Weird, right? In the zoo episode, we see Madame Gazelle terrified of Mr. Lion, an animal that feeds on gazelles. Even though it's a children's show, we can't help but wonder, what do the carnivores in Peppa's world eat? The answer could lie with the irrational animals in the show, like Grandpa Pig's chickens, which are birds. There are animals that don't act like people, just like there are vegetables that aren't like Mr. Potato. The scariest part of the zoo episode isn't even the lion, but Mrs. Crocodile. This is because Peppa usually only features mammals as talking animals, and the crocodile is the only exception. But why would the zookeeper be a predator of mammals? Could it be that she's in paradise, where all the other characters are prey, or even worse. Mrs. Crocodile is always treated very well by the town's residents, and she's seen as the one responsible for keeping the animals at the zoo, acting like a sort of guard. We know that this kind of animal is very solitary and territorial, which explains why she's alone, but it makes us wonder if there's an entire community of these giant reptiles. And at some point, Mrs. Crocodile might have to defend her territory from another not-so-friendly animal. Is Mr. Fox really a successful merchant, or is there something shady behind the trinkets he sells? Some scenes from the show depict Freddy's dad behaving in very suspicious ways, like when he took everything from Emily's stall without paying, or when Freddy said that he sells rocks in packs of 5.
My dad sells rocks in packs of 5.
Suggesting that Mr. Fox might be selling something illicit. I don't know, but that's pretty odd, and maybe even dangerous. But it also serves as a warning, because we know foxes have that reputation in our world. But if we're right, what can we expect from Mr. Wolf? Peppa is a sweet and cheerful little pig, but even she can be mean. For some sharp-eyed fans, it's possible that Peppa has an evil twin responsible for all the rude behavior she shows towards her friends and family. One example is when George got sick and Peppa didn't care at all, or when she hung up on Susie out of jealousy because her friend could whistle. Or maybe Peppa is just a horrible little pig who can't hide her mean streak all the time. Now, we have some great news for you, a true fan of the world's most famous pink pig from animated cartoons. We're introducing a channel where you can find absolutely everything about Peppa, the pig family, and all their friends and relatives. Don't waste any time. Subscribe now using the link in the description, or point your camera at the QR code on the screen and start playing. I'll be waiting for you there. Have you ever noticed that Miss Rabbit has a ton of jobs, and if the day only has 24 hours, she couldn't possibly handle them all? A curious fact is that rabbits are known for their high reproductive rate. What if Miss Rabbit is actually a group of mini rabbits who have taken over local businesses and are pretending to be one person? What could be the reason for so many shops and jobs? It can't be just for the money. Something fishy is going on here. Currently, Mr. Bull is married to Mrs. Cow, but there's something weird about his behavior before that used to freak out fans. Why did Mr. Bull attend parent meetings if he had no kids? And why did he join the parents' football team for the same reason? Peppa Pig is drawn in a simple 2D style, but whenever Peppa turns her head, she has 2 eyes on the same side of her face. And yes, that's pretty creepy, because even for a children's show, the only way for those 2 eyes to make sense is if all the characters actually have 4 eyes, 2 on each side, so Peppa would actually look like this. Tiddles the turtle doesn't talk, but she has some very strange behavior. She keeps running away from the vet, Dr. Hamster, which is concerning because she's supposed to be well taken care of. What's going on at Dr. Hamster's clinic? Could she be a terrible vet? This next topic is more of an interesting fact than something scary. George, our little brother piglet, doesn't communicate like most and loves dinosaurs. Have you ever wondered why? An interesting fact is that many people on the autism spectrum have a fascination with dinosaurs. No one knows exactly why, but it could be a way of coping with loneliness. In the show, Peppa has lots of friends and goes on many adventures with them, but she doesn't pay much attention to her younger brother. Despite all these creepy things, Peppa Pig is a lot of fun, and if you're a fan of the little pig, you'll enjoy knowing that we have lots of videos about her. We picked 2 more for you to watch, and we'll see you in the next video.